Good morning. How's business? Good. Some of you said great. And let's start off by realizing you always have to tell the truth. And there will be days and weeks when you can't be saying great and be telling the truth. But no one can know when things aren't going great, so I want you to learn a word. When they ask you how business is, get excited and say, unbelievable, because see, that covers it either way, doesn't it? So how's business? Unbelievable. How are some of your clients? Unbelievable. How's your in-laws? Unbelievable. Covers it either way, doesn't it? Anyway, so that's the first word. So on that first page, opposite page, number 1, in big letters, write unbelievable. You'll see my logo and my mission statement. So just write unbelievable. And that'll be our first word that we learn together today. Have fun with it. And you can have the worst day of your life, but no one ever needs to know it. And you're telling the truth, say, Guy, how are you doing? Oh, just unbelievable. Really, that good? Unbelievable. And that's the word you're going to use. Well, I'm excited to start with you today. We have a very full day, lots to cover. And as we get started, I'm meeting 90% of you for the first time. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that most people that are successful don't start off that way. See, I quit college after 90 days, and when I came home, my dad was in the living room, and I walked in. He said, what are you doing at home? I said, I quit college today. He says, you what? I said, I don't want to go to college. And I was his oldest son, and he looked at me and said, son, I'll always love you, even though now I know you'll never amount to anything, which that was my first motivational talk. And my dad gave me a gift that most people who are successful are given, and that's that they have something to prove to someone. Some of you are going to succeed because someone told you couldn't. Either because of age, education. Someone might say, you can't be successful because none of our family ever has been successful. What are you talking about? And you just want to say, oh yeah, watch me. Well, that's what happened to me. I went in my room that day, very depressed. I'm only 17, and what am I going to do with my life? And my uncle came over, Uncle Don, and he said, Tom, here you quit college. What are you going to do? I said, I have no idea, but I'm not going to college. And he said, well, listen, the steel company that I'm general manager of has been given the contract to build the bridge decks from Los Angeles out to Bakersfield, California. It's about a 100-mile stretch. And so he said, we need iron workers. And you can become an iron worker. Now, do I have any men in the room that were ever iron workers carrying steel? Anybody? No? Hardest physical labor on the planet. See, as you drive by a bridge made of that nice smooth concrete, inside that bridge is tons of steel. Because concrete has no tensile strength without what we call reinforcing rebar. And in a bridge deck, to give you kind of an example, a proper perspective, this little stand here, this would be called in ironworking a number 4 bar. But on a bridge deck, the main bar is a number 11 bar. Now they're 1 3/8 in diameter. They cut them in 60-foot lengths, and they weigh 208 pounds. And the only way they get out to the deck is men like animals carry them. And so for 8 hours a day, on my back with these bars, I'd carry them out on the deck, and you lay it down, and then you have a little reel of wire, and you tie it with pliers. I did that for a year. And one day I says, God, I've got to do something else with my life. I mean, I was 6'2" when I started carrying steel. I said, what am I going to do with my life? And luckily, as I mentioned, after a year, my dad came over to my little apartment, and my dad came over. He says, Tom, I was so disappointed when you quit college, but I got to tell you, you got a great work ethic. Here you are at 17 years of age. You never missed a day's work. 1 year out in the hot sun carrying steel. And I'm really proud of you that you have this work ethic, but what do you want to do with your life? I says, well, I sure don't want to carry steel the rest of my life. He says, well, you're 18 now. Why don't you get a real estate license? I says, oh, I don't know, Dad. I got to pass an exam. I couldn't do that. How many of you, like me, failed your exam the first time? Anybody like me fail it twice? Anybody like me fail it 3 times? How many times did you fail it? 3. Anybody more than 3? 4. Anybody beat 4? Your number 1 failure? Stand up. Stand up. Give her a hand. You see, in our type of business, we're different than average folks. Because, see, you never failed until you quit. And I guarantee when you got that card the 4th time you failed, you probably never dreamed that some American was going to introduce you to a few hundred people and congratulate you for failing. But, see, you never quit, and that's why I salute you. And you got to realize that. Success comes at a different pace for people. Some people walk into a business like yours, and overnight it starts happening. I didn't have that happen. My last year in real estate, I set a goal and set a record that had never been done, which is to close 365 individual homes in 1 year, one every day. And that record was like never happened. But I didn't start off that way. See, I only made 1 sale in the first 6 months, and that's not really true. I didn't make the 1 sale. I was the only one in the office, and a couple came in, and the husband said, we saw your sign on a home, and we want to buy it. And luckily, he knew how to fill out my forms. Now, people always say to me, Tom, what happened? What happened? A person came into my life. Now, never forget this. When a student is ready, a teacher can appear. But you first of all have to be ready. And that's why what I'm going to cover with you won't make sense unless you've been at a table with people, presenting, handling areas of concern, and closing transactions. That's why taking the book you're going to go through today, the follow-up is critical with this book. Now, I'm going to ask you to start some rituals that you do. And so here's kind of what happened to me. My money was almost gone from carrying steel. I was depressed and down, and a beautiful new Jaguar came into our office, and I'd never seen a new Jaguar. And the man got out of the car in a beautiful suit of clothes and walked in, and he wasn't that old. I'm going to guess I was then just 18. He would have been about 25. And I saw this expensive car, his beautiful clothes, and he walked in. I says, hey, how you doing? He says, good, I'm here looking for homes to show. My name is Jim Lawhorn. I'm in real estate. I says, you're in real estate? Is that your car? He says, well, sure, yeah. I says, those your clothes? He says, yeah. I says, how do you make money in this business? He says, have you ever had any training? I said, I guess not. And he could see I was sincere. And I've always been blessed to have people come into my life at the right time. And he said, young man, if you've never heard of J. Douglas Edwards, this is the man that can totally change your career. I'd never heard of him. None of you have ever heard of him. But J. Douglas Edwards had earned the title of our American's #1 how-to sales trainer. He had a title, the father of American selling. That was his title. And he trained all of us in the field of sales that were any good. We would listen to his records. Now, back then, that's all we had were records. For you that are young, these were things like this. They were black, and they went on a turn thing with a needle, and that's all we had to learn from. Well, that's why you guys are so blessed today, because, see, back then, we couldn't put record players in our cars. Today, you can turn your car into a classroom, which you need to do. You're going to spend 5,000 hours if you make this an entire career driving. And that time can be the negativity of the news and the media, which isn't going to make you a dime. Or it can be music, which is fine part of the time. But you need to make that inside of that car a classroom where you fill your mind with ideas, techniques, strategies. And of course, that's kind of what happened to me with his records. I mastered all the closing techniques, as you'll see many in the book today. And all of a sudden, my life started changing because I knew what to say. And you are in the word business, you see. Every word you say goes into their mind, and it impacts them emotionally with either positive, let's go ahead and do this, or negative, I'm afraid. And so you got to learn the words, learn what to say, as I'll teach you today. You also need to be very proud. Timing is a key to success. Being at the right time, the right place, the right attitude, with the right vehicle. But I just want you to realize you have to have a vehicle to be successful. See, working at the post office is really not a vehicle unless you want 40 years, 100,000 hours of work, and then live maybe making it, instead of the dignity you can have in your golden years through the proper investment program. You have to do what you want your clients to do. You have to write the first check every month to your own program. And if you aren't putting money into your own program, then you aren't living truth. And you have no right to sit across the table from my wife and I and say, you really need to get your financial affairs in order. You're getting less coverage for too much money. I'm going to bring back a financial needs analysis that will tell you exactly what you should do, and you should do it. Well, see, if you aren't doing it, you are a hypocrite. And I tell people this in your businesses, and I don't pull punches. You know, you paid to hear this. You got to be writing a check yourself.